Hello, and welcome to Matt Loves Eurovision. We're here for my another Eurovision 2022 season update. And if you haven't been to my channel before, my YouTube channel, please do subscribe. Also, click on the notification bell. As always, kind of like, share, and comment below. Now, I wasn't actually expecting to have an awful lot for the October update, or I wasn't expecting probably more than the venue. And in the end, there's turned out to be quite a bit of news to talk about. So we've had the venue and the city announced. We've had the participants confirmed. We've even had some news, amazingly, from the UK. And also, I was going to give a little bit of an update of my own sort of experiences at Eurobash, which is the annual kind of get together of the OGAE UK, the sort of the Eurovision fan club in the UK. So we'll kick off with that because that was the earliest thing. That was a few weeks ago now. Now, although I've been a Eurovision fan for sort of many years, it took a little while before I actually joined OGAE. That's been kind of a slightly more recent thing, and I've never been to one of the annual Eurobash events. But this year, to me and to my friends, actually managed to get ourselves organised and booked onto that. So obviously, it was happening this year because obviously last year it all had to happen online, and was held in Bristol. I turned up a little bit late because I'd been at a wedding, so I missed the first couple of bits of the session. So I missed the quiz, unfortunately. But it was a really enjoyable time, and some really interesting stuff there. We had a sort of a panel with two of 2021's participants, James Newman from the UK and Lesley from Ireland. And also we had Guy Freeman, who some of you might remember, he was the producer, or he ran the show for back in 1998 when the UK hosted. He was also for several years kind of head of delegation for the UK, including sort of the years that saw Molly in 2014 sort of represent the UK. Also, he was there in charge for when Electro Velvet represented the UK. So he tried various things, and it was a really interesting sort of panel discussion, or well, it wasn't a panel discussion. It kind of went to the kind of individual ones. I think Guy Freeman provided a really interesting insight to kind of how the BBC views Eurovision, or views what success looks like, which I think was really interesting. And it's something that perhaps we suspect isn't for the BBC at the moment, and the BBC is not a monolithic organisation. It's a gargantuan organisation with many different parts, and I think he was trying to convey kind of how complex that is. For kind of getting things achieved or prioritising on things. And he made the point that for many from the BBC perspective, their signal of success is not necessarily how the UK does, but kind of its ratings and it's the type of audience it brings in. And the UK gets an enormous Eurovision audience, so it brings in 8-9 million people on a Saturday night, and it gets a very large, quite a significant young demographic tuning into BBC One, which they wouldn't otherwise normally do on a Saturday night. So from that side of things, it's a success for BBC. And so then you think, what's the motivation for us to perhaps drag ourselves out of the mire that we seem to have been in most of the last 20 years? But more on that later, I think. Really interesting and lovely to hear from James and Lesley. James is such a lovely soul, so jolly and passionate about music, and I think considering what he experienced, and certainly in terms of the results, he still remains really happy. He still seems very chirpy about it, and I don't think it would put him off writing songs for Eurovision again, or even going for it again. I think he did enjoy, well, when I say he enjoyed the experience, he was in a hotel most of the time, either the hotel or the venue, so it was a slightly distorted experience, I imagine, from usual. But clearly he hasn't sort of scars. I mean, he's obviously off writing, doing what he loves, which is sort of really good to see. In some ways, Lesley Roy's discussion was more enlightening in a way, because I think she was really honest about the experience of her. Obviously, Ireland finished last in its semi-final. In fact, Ireland and the UK both finished in the same kind of relative positions as they did in 2019, both finishing last in their respective bits. But she, she talked a lot about how it had taken a long time for her to go back to one because there's a lot of very unpleasant stuff said, the sort of the vitriol that she got, which was really quite unpleasant, because no matter, even if you don't do well, people don't deserve to get the kind of nastiness. And I think kind of James, perhaps, or the UK press is obviously well known for being fairly awful, in some aspects of the press are fairly awful, but he, I think, didn't seem to take. I don't think if this stuff was directed to him, it was directed more at just the BBC or our approach, or the team, maybe some of the team around him, rather than James himself. Whereas I think for Lesley, it was probably a bit more. It felt like she had a lot more personal criticism, and she said she knew she was. And this is why she was really honest. They knew kind of from that first rehearsal that the risk that they had taken wasn't working, and what do you do once you're in that point? So, and then they had a technical hitch, and as well on the kind of the live, the sort of the live show, the public show. So it was quite an interesting insight. But she's still a very bubbly character, and both of them performed later on. We got a chance to have some photos taken. You may notice from the thumbnail as I'm next to James. So he was absolutely lovely. He when he saw Clive and I wearing kind of t-shirts that I had a Mini Pops one on, and Clive had a very sort of specially made one on that was, and I think he was he got so he was so amused to see it. He's rather than us getting a photo with him, first of all, he took his photo of us with the t-shirts, which was great. And I suppose that reminded me, of course, how much that set of Eurovision artists have missed out on, is that they haven't had the chance to interact with the fans. Obviously, with 2020 being cancelled and 2021 still going under very limited circumstances, the amount of time that the interaction they had with the fans has been really limited. So that was nice. And we saw him later at the bar as well, and obviously managed to catch him there and had a good old chat with him as well, and briefly spoke to Lesley. And so, and he is as nice and lovely as you'd in the flesh as you have probably from his social media and kind of seeing him on the TV. He is genuinely a lovely bloke. Other bits of Eurobash that I really enjoyed, as well as getting to see lots of other Eurovision fans, but it was also there was a Eurostars event, which is there's 10 acts or 10 members of the club members put on do I suppose it's a bit like Stars in Their Eyes, isn't it? Actually, they sort of dress up as an act and sing the full song. And I did wonder, because I thought, obviously, having never been, I just thought, is this going to be more like karaoke? But oh my goodness, it was really professional. And some were, really, really professional, and some were kind of really fun. All of them were kind of really passionate and dedicated, and it was a really, really enjoyable. So I'm definitely going to go to Eurobash again. And then the disco was a lot of fun as well, lots of dancing and a few drinkies were had as well. But that's enough of Eurobash. Back onto kind of Eurovision 2022 news, of which there has been quite a bit. So I kind of was expecting, or was hoping, that by the time I got to this next update, that the city would be announced. We knew it was between Turin, Milan, and Bologna, and there was various things going. Oh, is it going to be Bologna? Is it going to be Turin? Is it going to be Milan? In the end, it's gone with Turin, which was the original favourite to host Eurovision. Never hosted before, but they have hosted the Winter Olympics before, so they become one of a handful of cities that have hosted both Eurovision and an Olympics. And it's going to be held at the Pala Alpi Tour, which is big indoor venue. I think it is, well, it's either the second biggest or the biggest, depending on which kind of stat you use, but I think it's the second biggest indoor venue in Italy. It's quite fairly new. It was built for the Winter Olympics. It was particularly for the ice hockey, but like many of these kinds of venues, it's been turned into a kind of a multifunction indoor venue. So, and Turin is kind of really nicely placed, I think, from a connections point of view. I've only been to Italy a couple of times. Both times I've stayed at Turin is where I visited, because I had a friend who was living there. So actually, of all Italian cities, Turin is the one that I know best, and lots of nice things it has. It's very great. It has a great Egyptology museum, and like most Italian cities, there's great ice cream as well. Lovely some ice cream parlours that you can get to. So I gather the cost of accommodation is looking quite horrific at the moment, but I always think it's best just to wait and see. I don't think I'll be going unless I somehow get tickets through the ballot in the OGAE ballot, so we shall wait and see on that. The other thing that sort of happened was that Eurovision confirmed all the participants, and that was done just a couple of days ago, at the time of recording. So we're back to being 41 participants. There were 39 in 2021, but there were 41 in 2019. Slightly different makeup, but we do welcome back, as expected, we welcome back Armenia, who took a year off last year because of various geopolitical issues that they were going on in their region, and we also welcome back Montenegro, which had already been announced before Eurovision had said about the 41. Which was more of a surprise because I wasn't sure I was expecting Montenegro back. So we're sort of back to that nice core 41. We're missing 2 countries that were with us in 2018 when we had 43 countries. They, of course, are Belarus, which is its broadcaster has been thrown out of the EBU, and so it may be some time before Belarus rejoins Eurovision. And the other one is Hungary, which withdrew after 2019. No indication that they're going to come back immediately, but who knows? I think, again, depending on how things go politically in that country, that might make a bit of a change in the future. Some of the other countries that we thought might be coming back, Turkey obviously was the big one that people thought there's been a kind of an upswell interest in Turkey. It's been noticed kind of how well Turkey's done in the Eurovision again, so there's been a bit of an upswell interest in it. There were some positive sounds coming, but not this year. Who knows? I do feel Turkey probably will eventually come back, possibly. They did really well when they were doing really well, so there's no reason for them not to do. But I know there's other reasons why they're not back. So, but we'll see. But we've got a good spread, 41 countries, which is good to see. And so, finally, perhaps the most surprising bit of news of all was suddenly just we hadn't heard anything about the UK, amongst a number of other countries hadn't confirmed, although we thought they were fairly likely to do. But of course, with Eurovision confirming the 41 participants, we then learned that yes, the UK was going to take part, which we kind of knew was going to be the case. But what we weren't expecting is for the UK, for suddenly BBC Eurovision Twitter account, which normally stays fairly dormant until about March, and suddenly burst into life with "we've got some news coming," and then suddenly across various bits of from various accounts suddenly said, "Oh, we're going to be having something. Check out Newsbeat. Check out this," and so "Oh, gosh, bit of news." Which is unheard of at this point of the season for UK normally for Eurovision, and it certainly didn't allow us to. It's not allowed people to get into enormous amounts of speculation. But what it's turned out as the news is that perhaps not massive groundbreaking is that the UK they are staying with the internal selection, and they are staying with trying out going through a music management company, but they've ditched BMG after that experiment, and we're going with another music management agency called Tap Music. Now, Tap Music has a perhaps slightly younger, more innovative artist roster. Includes, as I'm sure if you've seen the news or right online, Dua Lipa. Not expecting her to be a Eurovision entry, but she's one of the people that's in that list. But there's a number of other kind of people that have been up and coming, and so it's perhaps more exciting. But what I think perhaps sets us apart from kind of the BMG side of things is that there's an interview given, so you can hear it via the Eurotrip podcast if you've listened to that. But there's a journalist, Steve Holden, who works for Newsbeat and One Extra, who did an interview with Ben Mawson from Tap Music, and it was really interesting hearing him talking about what they're attempting to do and kind of a real understanding, actually, a much better. You can feel kind of the penny dropping as like what Eurovision is now, and it's not what through the filter of prejudice, or the filter of what the Daily Mail might say, or the filter of what your parents might have seen in Eurovision, or all of these kind of real old cliches. And I think that kind of bodes well, because I think they're going to be looking for something that's fresh and stands out. And actually, you know, whether that comes first or whether it comes 26th, it's like what you want is something that is really fresh and is going to stand out and is authentic. And, you know, I know hope springs eternal with the UK and Eurovision in like recent years, but it certainly sounded really positive from that side. What you've got to hope is that it's the whole, and I think he said it was the whole package, not just the song. You've got to get everything right, the live performance, the staging, an understanding of the staging as well. So it's going to be a long time before we see what comes of that. But anyway, sort of I can look forward to it because I think just sort of, you know, going back to kind of 2021. I'm not going to look back too much, but it was interesting to see that James himself didn't. He continues to say that he was happy with the staging and of Embers, but I think, you know, on reflecting, I think the consensus is that our staging was not up to scratch compared to some of the other countries. I do wonder what would have happened if we'd had My Last Breath, because the staging concepts for that sounded really interesting, and I just feel as though the team and the BBC were far more invested in 2020. And then they've got a documentary going. It felt like there was more going behind that, and maybe the result would have been slightly different. Certainly not a 0-0 as we got, but fortunately, as I say, James doesn't seem to have been particularly scarred by it. And the other interesting thing that Ben Mawson said was that he's not looking back too much. He's not going, "Oh, why haven't we done so?" He's actually just going, "What do we need to do well?" rather than kind of overanalyzing perhaps what's gone on in the past, and actually looking to see what's been successful and what sticks out. So fingers crossed. It's going to be a while since we get to hear it. I mean, it'll obviously, we probably won't hear anything now till February or March. So, but we'll sort of keep our ears peeled, eyes peeled even, to see what happens there. Anyway, I'm trying to keep everything up to date on my website, at Eurovision.com. I've got a page there where I kind of keep all of the kind of any news about national selections and as we move through the season up to date. I'll probably come back in November, see if there's any more updates. There's a few normally bits and pieces around this time of year, although not huge amounts of news. And as you can see, I'm still doing this from a slightly more amateur way of just recording for live on my webcam to do a video. My husband, who did all of the kind of the, you know, all the video edits, he's really busy. To be honest, I'm really busy as well, with various things, both work and home. So we haven't had a chance to do kind of some of those kind of more edited, sort of, you know, crafted videos with clips and stuff just yet. But so you also have to put up with these for a little bit longer. I still kind of might dip my toes in the water of reaction videos or review videos, but all I mean to say about that, I've got this next few weeks is going to be quite busy in my non-Eurovision life, so we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. But it's been lovely to see you, and yes, join me again soon when I come back with another update. Take care for now.